This week, President Bola Tinubu took the charge in Berlin, Germany, as he led Nigerian policymakers to the G20 Compact with Africa CWA conference. The task before them is simple: seeking investors and creating an enabling jobs environment. But then the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the Central Bank of Nigeria failed to hold this month, making it the second successive month that the meetings did not hold. The last time it held was in July early this year. And of course, the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee meeting, FAC, this week shared 906.955 billion naira to the three tiers of government as revenue accrued in the month of October. Last week, Nigeria logged inflation numbers that are decades high, followed by rising food prices. Now, renowned psychologist Abraham Harold Maslow, in his famous theory, propounded the hierarchy of needs, and a major component of the base, which is the psychological needs or the basic needs of humans, is changing the dynamics of everyday life for Nigerians. And this development, of course, is rubbing off on the purchasing power of the society. What does that mean? Well, our main cause for this episode is the economic fundamentals affecting food prices and the policy direction to tame them. We're also offering our complimentary segment, Simplify These and Market Roundups. But then we have some mind-boggling updates for you about Nigerian treaties and agreements signed right from 1960 when we got independence till now. Hang in there. We have a whole lot for you. My name is Leah and this is The Policy. Now, before we delve into the business of the day, let's bring you up to speed with a roundup of economic activities.
The growing economic partnership between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Federal Republic of Germany witnessed further expansion and strengthening this week as two important agreements were signed between Nigerian and German businesses. Speaking in Berlin, Germany at the 10th German-Nigerian Business Forum, President Bola Tinubu said that with a resilient democracy, Nigeria is well primed to attract foreign direct investment. The president witnessed the signing of two memoranda of understanding, one on the supply of gas from Nigeria to Germany and another for $500 million worth of renewable energy projects in Nigeria. Outlining some of the achievements of his administration, which include his globally acclaimed economic reforms, the president emphasized his commitment to sustaining the reforms and building stronger Nigerian-German relations. Back home, a glimmer of hope came for Nigeria's creative industry as Vice President Kashim Shettima restated the resolve of the Tinubu administration to ensure a more inclusive and prosperous future for the country's creative economy. He said the present administration is poised to increase the voices of Nigeria's creative minds, empower the nation's best talents, and harness the unconstrained potential within the country's diverse cultural tapestry. The Vice President gave the assurance while addressing key players and stakeholders in the nation's creative and entertainment industry during the Arts, Culture and Creative Economy Roundtable, a creative industry intervention organized by the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy Wale Edun says the Federation account is witnessing improved revenue inflow since the removal of fuel subsidy from an average of 650 billion naira monthly to over 1 trillion naira in the last 4 months. Wale Edun made the disclosure at a retreat in Asaba, Delta State for Federal Account Allocation Committee (FAC), organized by the Federal Ministry of Finance in collaboration with Delta State government, with the theme Creating Resilient Economy Through Diversification of the Nation's Revenue. Meanwhile, Accountant General of the Federation, Dr. Oluwatoyin Madeyin, in her speech disclosed that the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation is drafting a bill that will give legal backing to the public finance management reform initiatives and the operations of the Treasury of the Federation. She said the bill, when passed into law, will repeal the Finance Control and Management Act 1958 and enact the Public Finance Management Bill, which will provide legal framework for the operations of the Treasury, institutionalize the public finance management reforms, and regulate the management of public funds. The Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies has unveiled 10 volumes of multilateral treaties legally binding on Nigeria for the period of 1960 to 2023 and their tabular analysis. This exercise, which was last done for the first time 33 years ago in 1990, did not cover much, hence the need to update the data. The unveiling of the first 9 volumes was done by the Attorney General of the Federation, who was represented by Beatrice Jedi Agba, Solicitor General of the Federation. Director General of the Institute, Professor Muhammad Twafik Landan, identified 3 key areas of concern emerging from the non-domestication of treaties and agreements within the period and pointed out that the exercise was born out of general concern from the 3 tiers of government, including the private sector and other stakeholders regarding the volume and scope of treaties.
And you'll be shocked that the Ministry of Justice does not even have, a single copy as of today. Probably actually in the next few weeks, copies will actually be rolled. But the National Assembly, the same thing does not have. So some executive actual institutions are having these treaties and they are required to be sharing them, in the depository of this so that we can have a reliable national database. The essence of the database is for legal information, is for legal empowerment, is about access to information on treaties so that we can monitor treaty obligations implementation by Nigeria, by Nigerians in Nigeria.
So if you sign international law or treaty, you must also come back home. Apart from ratification as a member of the United Nations or a member of the African AU or a member of ECOWAS, you must come home and domesticate it for it to be enforced.
Welcome back. Are you wondering why food prices are high above your normal expected increases at this time of the year? Well, I'd like to inform you that it is a chain reaction. Understanding the policy direction affecting food cost and, of course, the fundamentals is our focus this morning. So food inflation in the month of October 2023 rose to 31.52%, up from 30.64% recorded in September, as well as a 7.8% rise over the same period last year. And now we all know that food, clothing and shelter remain the basics of life before you think of any other thing else. And so this morning I had to go pay a visit to Mr. Sterling Ellis, who is the CEO and founder of Sterling Ellis Co Limited with multiple jurisdictions across the world. It's nice to see you this morning, Mr. Stanley.
Very good, Leah. Thank you. So glad to have you in my digital home office space. I am excited really to have you.
I'm also excited to be here. And perhaps I'll start with this very, very basic question. I mean, basic because we're in a season of post-harvest in many jurisdictions around the country, and almost all the harvesting has been done except for very few food commodity like beans and sorghum, but most maize and others out of the farms already. But yet we're seeing skyrocketing food prices. So really, is this a normal scenario?
Well, I would say the situation is not unique to Nigeria. It is a global phenomenon, and there are quite a few economic fundamentals that affect food prices globally. And there are quite a few of them, but essentially there are 10 that we might need to take a look at in order to demystify why food prices, clothing, cost-push inflation and the like are causing almost irreparable damage to the economy. Now we have supply and demand. We know that when there is an increase in population or a decrease in supply, prices tend to rise. That's just basic economic principle. That's one of them. The other is weather and climate considerations. When you have floods, natural disasters, they also mitigate crop yields, and these also lead to higher prices. We also have input costs. That's to say, in economic terms, cost-push inflation is derived from the inputs of a production of any product that results in price increases. For example, if you have transportation, fuel cost increasing as a result of subsidy removal and the like, automatically the inputs to the product will increase. We also have energy prices, and of course, energy prices we all know are germane to production of any good. We have exchange rates also that also impact upon price increases, especially in Nigeria, where we are used to importing even toothpicks. And so if we're importing toothpicks and we have to depreciate the value of our currency, that's vis-a-vis other currencies, then the prices have to almost invariably increase because we don't have the capacity for job creation. Other people are creating products for us to use here. So we have too many naira chasing very few foreign currencies. So when these products come in here, they have to tag on the incremental costs.
So perhaps you tell us what are the implications of these on households and now Nigerian households? What are the implications?
To households, it's quite devastating because most households do not have the income necessary to make all of these purchases like they did maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So the exponential increases in prices without job creation for these people, the Nigerians, the citizenry, to be able to afford these products would definitely ultimately create challenges and stresses that most Nigerians can't bear. And so the implication is we need to look, mitigating circumstances and ways of creating, a decompressed economy where we create jobs and the like. But moving forward, we also have global, trade policies that also impact upon the increase in prices. When you have trade policies that hinge upon restrictions, tariffs, and the like, you almost invariably don't have the capacity to control your circumstances. So you are at their beck and call, and when products don't come through the boundaries into your country, it means that, and of course if you don't have any substitutes, it means that whatever circumstances you find yourself, you have to deal with, and that means higher prices.
How do we lay the cards on the table?
I would say the key is education and the administrative style of our leaders to let people know what they need to know and making our citizenry be educated enough to understand the various concepts that will allow them to take advantage of opportunities or any threats or weaknesses that they need to be aware of or any strengths that they need to draw from. So there's a whole lot of homework that we need to do. Manna doesn't fall from heaven. We have to be really focused on what we want and go at it and get it right. We can't expect external influences to do the magic for us. So, for example, a show like yours would be, well served because you'll be a point of light, to the rest of the population by way of YouTube, broadcasts and, live digital, sessions that would allow people to tune in and know what's going on. Maybe go to the WTO website and figure out the up-to-the-minute information that they need to know. It hinges upon education grossly.
Let's have an understanding. How is all these affecting price stability?
Well, it's quite vital. Price stability actually is the essence of the Central Bank of Nigeria's chores. And the current central bank governor is very, focused on achieving price stability. But it's quite difficult to have price stability when you have a checkered economy that has externalities coming in to dictate essentially what we ought to be doing here. In terms of job creation, we are not fixed on trying to use our capacity to connect to Europe, US, China adequately. We allow imports that we could, create value for in our country by making sure that plants, factories, manufacturing enterprises are present in our country as opposed to getting these imports. We can use external technologies, but to allow only imports to come in is a killer. We need to be able to control our circumstances. I know inflation is a very big problem, but in order to do that, we need to key into the global economy and seek out avenues for achieving the least cost of capital. Because we do not have technology, we don't have capital. We've abused our privileges for much too long, but we can still have access to various regions of the world where there are, private equity, venture capital funds, to come into Nigeria by way of foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investments, to kind of bubble up the economy. Unfortunately, we don't have professionals who are transcontinentally scoped because that's a very gargantuan task to achieve in terms of being licensed in jurisdictions like the US, to carry out capital markets activity, the United Kingdom, and of course Nigeria, and to be a local content brand that would be able to scour the entire world and seek out ways of bringing in foreign direct investments and foreign portfolio investments. Fortunately for us, now we have a brand that's of global repute, and that's a local content, specific, brand. And I don't mean to advertise my brand, but Sterling Ellis happens to be that brand that is singularly positioned in all three jurisdictions, Nigeria, UK, and the US. And I think according to Professor Uche Owaleke, who is highly respected, not only in Nigeria, but across Africa, singularly positioned in the entire world as the only Nigerian resident in Nigeria without qualification. And I think creating jobs, being highly competitive around the world, keeping our people adequately informed about digital technologies, making them key into what's going on around the world. We need capital for all of this. We don't have the money in Nigeria. So having professional depth and wherewithal to reach various regions of the world that will be willing to move capital into Nigeria on a professional note that would allow such resources to be efficiently and effectively used so that the returns would be repatriated to those who were willing to bring in foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment into Nigeria. We can bubble up the commodity exchanges, the NGX, the Nigerian Exchange Limited, through market-making opportunities. So we'll be able to do dollar-denominated investment banking activity, asset management. We'll have a hub that would preponderate indiscriminately across not only Nigeria, but Africa. The value of the Naira cannot be increased by virtue of sitting back and waiting for manna to fall from heaven. We have to be productive. We have to key into the current technologies. We have to create jobs that will create products and services that are demanded elsewhere, that will generate flows into Nigeria. Foreign direct investments at the least cost of capital can only be achieved through professionals who are endowed and who have access in order to bring about a reasonable sense of price stability. We have to control our own circumstances. We have to minimize the dependence on imports. If a country elsewhere wants to come into Nigeria to do business, we have to have stern conditions for the betterment of our own citizenry in terms of indigenization of products and services that would allow Nigerians to have jobs, that will have Nigerians to pay taxes, that would allow monies to flow within our boundaries, and of course, making sure that our balance of payments, surpluses exist, not necessarily deficits. Although deficits or surpluses may not be necessarily bad, but it's best to have surpluses like China has been having in terms of international trade balance of payments. So if we're able to have our house in order and we're able to create jobs, we're able to key into the use of technologies, we're able to, basic streaming services like, the policy with Leah can be beamed across Africa, and you'll be generating revenue into Nigeria. And when that happens, it helps the balance of payments of this country. It makes us look good relative to other countries because they want to watch Leah, the policy with Leah, that beams from Nigeria. By streaming, they have to pay. And those resources come into Nigeria. So, these are areas that we can definitely explore and expound upon and grow within.
All right. I want to sincerely thank you, Mr. Stanley, for welcoming us into your space.
Very good. Thank you very much, Leah. You've definitely lived up to the billing of being an iconic reporter, producer, and anchor of a very special program that adds value to policymakers, business people, and researchers across Africa.
Thank you. So what are we learning today? Well, we have decided to simplify monetary policy for you. And that is because last week we simplified fiscal policy. You need to get to know these things and how they affect you. And from there, we'll take a trip to the market square. For more on market rates across the country, do well to log on to our sister website, www.marketnigeriatv. We have all the details for you there. And of course, we end this episode here. We have this episode actually on YouTube streaming, and of course all the previous ones are also there. You can always catch them up there. Of course, join us via our social media platforms. Your questions, your comments and suggestions, we value them, so keep them coming. My name is Leah Babatunde, signing out. Have a beautiful weekend and God bless Nigeria.